Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is John Michael. We're going to talk about pro-life Nova Scotia today. Pro-life Nova Scotia. If you're sick and tired of paying the government for the abortions, then we might not be so far apart in thought, right? Me and you, maybe you're a man or you're a woman and all this stuff, and maybe you disagree with abortions, right? Maybe you think, okay, birth control's not so bad or whatever, but you didn't see the content of this YouTube channel. If you've seen the YouTube channel, you've seen that birth control is terrible, even worse than abortion, even worse. Anyway, you don't like abortion. Let's say, for example, you're reasonable. You say, abortions, killing a baby and all this stuff. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's going. You're killing a baby because you can't afford it, or whatever. And then the 0.51%, there's rape and incest or whatever. But then what about the 95%, of cases of abortion that are just for birth control reasons, elective, but just want to kill the baby. Okay, you don't like that? I agree. I agree. It's a terrible thing. But you live in a place like where I used to live. I used to live in Digby County, Nova Scotia, where it's Clare, which is, the Acadian population was a minority, the French-speaking minority, which is basically being eradicated. Like, we're not going to be around any longer because of this birth control and abortion, the interference with the reproduction. It's happening now. Okay, so you don't like that, and if you don't like it, leave. Well, so I did. I don't like paying my taxes. I don't like paying the municipal government, right, so they can pay the Metagan, Clare Health Center that will kill children, literally infant sacrifice, right? I don't want to do that, right? So I have to be, uproot my whole life, right? Uproot my whole life to be able to live in a place where it's constitutionally protected. The children are constitutionally protected from conception in this, on the land that I'm standing on now. And the children that I have here in this house are very, very beautiful, very, very precious, and very smart, okay? And if you want to go there, sure, racial hybridization, right? I was unable to, it was not convenient to be able to have a family in that part of the place where you got to pay so many taxes, right? So as a father of the family, what do I want to do? I want to house my children, right? I want to house my children. How can I house my children when the property taxes are so high and the property taxes go to kill my neighbor's children, right? Because I would never actually happen to, I would never get with a woman that would be pro-abortion, because that would be silly, right? So I would have to pay my property tax to destroy the future, right? And I don't want to do that, right? So, and I can't opt out. No. If I am physically inside of okay, so then I have to pay my income tax, the fuel tax. You got the carbon tax. You got the tax on all these things, right? That will go. A portion of it will go to, whatever. You gotta pick up some garbage and do some sidewalks or whatever. But there's a percentage that goes to killing children, right? Abortions, right? Taxpayer-funded abortions. It's a healthcare or whatever. It's not healthcare in certain countries, right? So why is it in healthcare in Canada? Why? Why is something constitutionally protected? It's a constitutional right from conception, the right to life in this country, right? But it's healthcare to be able to kill children, like to literally kill them. Like why don't you just chop an arm off? Just chop the arm off, okay? At least he gets to live. Right, but you gotta keep going, right? They gotta keep plucking until the brain is gone. Right? That's how sick they are. And Morgenthaler gets the Order of Canada. That's how sick people are. Right? It's just evil. I mean, this is the oldest crime in history. It's recorded in the books, right? And of course, it's murder. Right? He killed his own brother, right? Cain and Abel, right, if you remember. So that's in the first book of the Bible. But these people don't care about God. They don't care about God, right? So then they will just say, well, that sounds like a good idea. I should kill babies, right? That would be great because I can have a career and whatever kind of nonsense lie they want to put in their heads, right? And so forth, right? So, and then the birth control pill, right? The birth control pill, I suspect, it's an educated guess, but I suspect that is responsible for more deaths, embryonic deaths, than abortion and IVF combined, and all the wars, right? So I suspect that's the greatest one. So, to be able to prove that, you'd require some forensic and all that stuff. It's very inconvenient to prove, and I'm mature enough to admit that. But I do suspect, and I talked about this a few times, and I was like, oh, whatever. Well, what is the number? But I do suspect, again, I'm going to say this one more time, I do suspect that birth control, right, IUD, the pill, right, the implant, right, the implant, the things like that, right, I'm not talking about Plan B or anything like that. I'm talking about the pill, right, the contraceptive, is responsible for more embryonic deaths, right, than IVF, which is huge. Right? IVF is clearly not ethical or whatever. Oh man, so many lives, right? So many lives. Wars, abortion, wars, things like that, like famines, the Black Plague and all that stuff. I would suspect, and I'm not claiming that it is, right? I have no business claiming that, but I do suspect that, the pill is responsible for more deaths than all of those combined, right? The greatest mass murder ever, right, in the history of humanity, right? So I do believe that is. I suspect it is, right? I do suspect it is, right? So we have to make some more investigations and all this stuff to actually figure that out. But I have a direct connection in this here is that my own family, my own blood, like 25% of my DNA is responsible for this kind of not even that. I mean, she runs a medical center that is the gender affirming care clinic, right? Literally gender affirming care. And they do, of course, abortions in that place. They literally kill children with taxpayer funded dollars. And we're supposed to call her a hero, right? And she gets on a nuke from coast to coast to coast, right? From the Arctic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. She's on the national news of the country, right? This is grotesque. And people are like, yeah, that's great. We're just following along Morgenthaler, which was this Jewish guy that came into, if you don't know what Morgenthaler is, apparently the story is it's a Jewish guy. So the mainstream story goes like this, right? And it's a Jewish guy. He's coming in to destabilize the country and lower the population. Okay, but who's to say that he's a Jewish guy? Who's to say that he's a direct descendant of King David or Abraham or whatever? Right? Who's to say that? Right? Is there the direct family lineage? Or is it just a guy who calls himself a Jewish person to be able to get with the anti-Semitism crowd, right? You can't do anything wrong to me because I'm a Jewish guy. If you talk bad about what I'm doing, you're an anti-Semite. I'm not an anti-Semite. What are you talking about? I'm just seeing it how it is, right? This guy came into the country and he started doing, killing children. And then everybody was like, oh, that's a great idea. We should kill more children. And then he got the Order of Canada for arguing that if you kill children in the certain parts of the country, like for example, Iqaluit or whatever, it's harder for a woman to kill her child because it's very very difficult to access the abortionists, right? So then for example, like Vancouver, it was really really easy because there's so many abortionists there, right? The woman who's in Whitehorse, right, is going to have a harder time to kill her child. That's literally the whole, 200 pages of it. If you ever, glanced, I'm not going to waste my time reading the court document of the Morgenthaler case, the decision. You ever see what you know what I'm referring to, right? The decision, right, which is nonsense, which is absolute nonsense, right, and then what do we see? We have unlimited up till birth, killing children, and then they just no, you don't get the right to life, and you basically kill this child, and there's no punishment or whatever. It's a woman's right. It's a decriminalized act. That's what it is. It's not a woman's right. It'll never be. It's a decriminalized act that is very very much still very very much unlawful in many many countries, including where I am today. So. If you don't like it, leave. Well, all right, I guess we have to. I guess I can't get I can't produce any value over there. I can't be a functioning member of society because I don't like abortions. That's how twisted it is. You have to love killing children to be part of academia of an Acadian person, right? So this is what my family contributed to the country, right? So you could have stopped it. I mean, they could have said, hey, I'm a doctor. I should do no harm, right? This is my Hippocratic oath to not kill children, or to not kill elderly people, or to not give cross-sex hormones to teenagers and things like that. Cross-sex or whatever you want to go there. I don't really care about that. That's Billboard Chris's thing. And by the way, Billboard Chris is a cool guy. Don't get me wrong, but he should. We talk about this, abortion and birth control thing, but whatever. He wants to talk about the cross-sex hormones, whatever. He's putting his billboard out there. If I still were there, maybe I'd do the same thing. A billboard and said, the pill causes embryonic death. You want to see some people freaking out. Oh, man. The pill causes embryonic... Just imagine me, in a city like Toronto, like in downtown Toronto. The pill causes embryonic death. The amount I'd get arrested, like right there. Boom, I would get arrested. 100%. I would get arrested. What are the charges? Inciting hatred and violence or whatever. What? I love these people. These people are my neighbors. Who are my neighbors? These precious children. These children that are in the womb of their mothers and the fathers, right? The fathers that have 50% of the DNA. I love these people, right? And it's a funny story. I'm having a debate with this LGBT community or whatever, and I'm just really putting the hard question. I was like, listen, let's just not be Karens about it. Let's just calm down and let's get to the basics of these hard questions. And I was like, what do you think about the LGBT in school? Should the children actually be, forced to, consume LGBT materials and all this stuff? What about the dad situation? And it's not really relevant to the video, but it is. I'm having a debate by correspondence with the LGBT community or whatever. What about the dad that, should children, because obviously one dad is not going to be the biological dad because you can't have two biological dads, right? So let's say, for example, two dads, one of them maybe is the biological dad, maybe if this guy is the biological dad, or maybe they're both not biological dads. Maybe they're just two random strangers. And they're like, oh, no, as long as you give love and everything to the child, he doesn't need a mother, whatever. I'm going to post that. This debate's interesting, and so I was like, no, let's get to the hard questions. Now, what about abortion and all this stuff? What about the fact that basically the white European descendant Canadians are being eradicated through birth, interference with their reproduction, and then the interference with their reproduction, and then they're, Carney's bringing like 60 million. I don't know if that's true. I've seen a meme of it. Basically, they're going to gift 60 million Indians to Canada. I don't know if that's true. I haven't been to Canada for a long time, and I don't think I'll ever go back, but they're going to gift 60 million Indians to Canada. See, Mark Carney doesn't care about the long-term future. He cares about his election cycle, right? It took me a long time to figure that out, right? And I was also to the LGBT community, I was like, do you think, we should focus on the long-term, long-term future that, basically, are we going to be eradicated into the next 150 years? And she's like, blah, blah, blah. I have to post that because they're throwing themselves under the bus. And then I was like, should we have the pride parade where they've got these not even dressed men that are like not even dressed, and the children are there, and they're like, it's like a crime in any other setting, but since it's a pride parade, you can literally have your genitalia being exposed to these minors, right? So basically, that's the story and all this stuff. And this is just an isolated event and all this stuff. I don't know why I got to talk about that, because it's happening. But just never mind about that. I'll make that in another video because that's going to be good. That's coming up. But I guess the point is, right? The point is, I don't want to live in that society no more. I don't want to live in Sodom anymore. Right? I don't want to live there. I don't want to live in the place where the taxpayer funded abortions. I don't want to live there. Why would I want to live there? Right? I could contribute so much to this society. I could. But I'm not going to pay income taxes. To be able to have my federally deducted income tax, pay abortionists, right? The federal government of the country is coming in to my paycheck. I'm doing a legitimate, business, Right? If it's a business tax or whatever. I had an incorporated company that were taking that one, and then they were taking my paycheck, which is double taxation. Well, goes without saying, but I don't want that money to go towards killing my neighbors. It's terrorism, right? What else is it? Anyway, thanks for tuning in.